Let's go live then.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Councillor Les Fry. Welcome to this virtual licensing subcommittee. Before we start, I'm going to ask, should we elect a chair for this committee for today? Do I have any nominations, please? You're muted, Councillor Parker.
Sorry, good morning. I propose that we select Councillor Les Fry for chair of this meeting.
Yeah, well, I'm happy with that.
Thank you all. That's very good of you. Thank you very much. I'm happy to chair this meeting. So welcome to this virtual licensing subcommittee. As I've said, I'm Councillor Les Fry. I'll ask my fellow subcommittee members to introduce themselves, please.
I'm Councillor Susan Cockin and I represent Portland.
Emma.
Good morning all. My name's Councillor Emma Parker and I represent Puddletown and Lower Winterbournes.
Thank you very much. I would now like the council officers to introduce themselves, starting with the committee clerk, please.
Morning, I'm Elaine Tibble. I'm a Democratic Services Officer for Dorset Council.
Thank you very much. The legal representative is today.
Good morning, my name's Lara Altree. I'm a solicitor with Dorset Council.
Thank you very much, Laura. The report author, the licensing team leader is?
It's Aileen Powell, and I am both the licensing team leader and the report author, Chair.
Thanks, Aileen. I'd now ask the parties and their representatives in attendance to introduce themselves, starting with Mr. Watts, please.
Morning, committee. I'm Phil Watts, agent for the applicant for this particular item.
Thank you very much, Mr. Watts. Good to meet you under these unusual circumstances and virtual meetings and the joy of them.
Indeed.
Thank you very much. Aileen, do we have any responsible authorities here today?
No, Chair, we don't.
Thank you very much. Any person who has made a representation or who's completed their notice of attendance and stated they wish to speak, I will call you by the list supplied by the notice of attendance and that they were returned. Thank you very much. I'll just go over some housekeeping and ask that you please follow the ground rules for this meeting. Only speak when invited to by the chair, please. If you have not been introduced before speaking, please state your name. Mute your microphone when you are not speaking. After each party has spoken, the chair will go around the parties, starting with the members of the subcommittee to see if they have any questions for the speaker. If you want to speak at any other time, please type RTS, that's request to speak, in the instant messaging chat bar, and we'll make sure that it's seen. Aileen will be monitoring that. Can we keep any background noise to a minimum, please, and turn off any mobiles and alerts on your computer? Thank you very much. We have no apologies for today, is that right, Elaine?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you very much. Do either of the councillors have any declarations of interest? I have nothing.
No, Chair.
No, Chair.
Thank you very much. Do we have any urgent business?
No, Chair.
Thank you very much. The case before us today is the Weymouth Kebab House. I'm now going to ask the licensing team leader to outline the details of the application, including details of any withdrawn representations. Aileen, please.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Emra Tanyel and Mr. Osman Tanyel currently hold a licence to supply late night refreshment in Weymouth to what actually amounts to 24 hours a day, as they actually only need to be licensed for late night refreshment between the hours of 2300 and 0500. They are asking to be allowed to add the provision of alcohol to their delivery meals, but only between the hours of 15 to 2200. And I would emphasise alcohol will only be supplied with food that is being delivered. 2 representations have been received. They relate to the cumulative impact area and some matters that are public health issues. As the licensing authority, we must concern ourselves only with the 4 licensing objectives of the prevention of crime and disorder, the prevention of public nuisance, public safety, and the protection of children from harm. The latter 2 are primarily concerned with people on the premises and not the wider public. This premises is in the cumulative impact area, and the special policy for the area applies to all premises licences and includes both applications for new premises and for variations of existing licences. The key factor with this application is whether a delivery-only service will add to the existing problem in Melcombe Regis or whether it will not have any impact at all. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Aileen. Councillors, do we have any questions for Aileen? Sue?
Sorry, not at this moment.
Councillor Parker?
Thank you, Chair. The only question that I had, I think Aileen's already touched on, and that was the fact that the premises is in the cumulative impact zone, and I just wondered if that did apply for off sales of alcohol.
Yes, it applies to all premises licences, so yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything else, Councillor Parker, at this time?
No, thank you.
I'm next going to ask the applicant to present their case, please. Mr. Watts, would you like to present, please? If you can come off mute and put your camera on, please, that would be helpful.
Thank you, Chair. As I act for Mr. Emra Tanyel and his father, Osman, as outlined by Aileen, they currently benefit from a premises licence, which allows them to open until 5 AM 7 days a week. They do, beyond the scope of that license, currently, or prior to pandemic, currently benefits from being open until 6 a.m. on Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings. As outlined by Aileen, the variation of the premises license does not seek to undermine the current provisions of their premises license, but to enable them to provide an off-sales of alcohol service solely for delivery between the hours of 1500 to midnight daily. The alcohol sales from 1500 to 2200 hours daily, i.e. ceasing delivery of alcohol 1 hour prior to the normal standard provisions beyond the Melcombe Regis special designation area. Whilst there are objections that have been outlined, it is considered that most deliveries of alcohol, like they do with food, extend beyond the scope and extent of the Melcombe Regis catchment area. Is also another kebab shop on King Street, which does not have any restrictions for the sale of alcohol, and indeed they can sell alcohol from the premises unrestricted by any licensing regime. So essentially, we do not consider that there will be any cumulative impacts from the sale of alcohol, especially given that there are other premises within the locality. As I say, there's the other kebab shop. There's also the Esso garage on King Street, which is 24 hours a day serving alcohol. There's also various convenience stores and indeed Tesco on Lodmore Hill in the immediate catchment area, which benefit from the ability to sell alcohol for consumption off the premises up until 2300 hours. We therefore do not consider that the addition of alcohol purely for deliveries with pre-ordered food will cause any impacts to the immediate area or indeed the wider area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Watts. Very helpful. Thank you. Right, I'm now going to go to the councillors to see if they have any questions for yourself. Councillor Cocking, do you have any questions for Mr. Watts?
Yes, I do. There's two questions really. I want to know why do they want it from 3 o'clock in the afternoon? Because that seems exceptionally early for me to encourage people to start drinking at that time. I know you've said, well, that's part of the other question, that there is other places people can go to Asda or wherever else, but it seems to me that we are encouraging people to be drinking earlier if you're going to have delivering food, alcohol with food. So I just want to know, why do they want it from 3 o'clock? It won't be more sensible to do it from a later time. And why do they need to have a off-sales license when, as you've just stated, that there is already lots of places that people can buy alcohol? I know you're saying that the alcohol will be delivered with the food, but you know, if people want alcohol, they can go and buy it. There's plenty of shops from where locally, and it is in a CIZ area. So I just think it's encouraging people to drink more alcohol. I want to know, why do they want it from 3 o'clock in the afternoon as well?
Thank you, Councillor Cocking. If I can respond, please, Chair.
Please do.
There's obviously two issues that have been highlighted. The first is being the question as to why alcohol sales would be sought from 3 p.m. The second, why there is the need for alcohol sales. And basically, the matter is simple. The fact of the matter is that whilst under normal circumstances prior to the pandemic, the premises would normally be open from 11 a.m. in the morning, serving kebabs. The applicants, due to the need to try and salvage their business for the good of the economy, have sought to diversify into deliveries, which they did not previously offer, even for takeaway food. It is because that they have slimmed down their trading hours due to demand and staffing issues and the overall cost of running the business, that they have sought to slim down the delivery of food, and they are only operating that from 1500 hours until midnight daily. The reason for seeking to offer alcohol from 3 p.m. alongside those deliveries is largely due to the fact that they're seeking to diversify their business, which, as I say, at the moment is struggling. And they are also aware that there is sources of alcohol purchasing in the locality 24/7. Indeed, Councillor Cocking mentioned Asda, who have now resumed their original trading hours, which is 24 hours a day. Basically, people, Councillor Cockings is correct, could source alcohol at any time, but largely by offering alcohol alongside pre-ordered deliveries, and I stress that they have to be pre-ordered online, the applicants are seeking to make a more attractive offering to their purchasers. And indeed, why should they not gain from some of the benefit of boosting their income through the sale of sales of alcohol solely for delivery, rather than the big boy supermarkets who would otherwise be profiting.
Thank you very much, Mr. Watts. Councillor Cocking, does that answer your questions?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Parker, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Mr. Watts, I have a couple of questions, please. Can you still hear me, Mr. Watts?
I can.
Thank you very much. If I go into Tesco's to buy some alcohol or to Asda, they will ask me for proof of age. If I or you go into a pub, they will ask for proof of age, but they can see that I and probably possibly yourself are over 25. What guarantees have they got that the people buying online will be over the age of over 25, or certainly over the age to drink alcohol?
Certainly, thank you, Chair. I have been in a dialogue with the licensing officers, and indeed, through discussion, they have suggested that if you are minded to allow this variation application, they have suggested a number of conditions. I can confirm that the applicant would accept all of these conditions, and indeed, not only do they extend to provisions which would ensure that alcohol is not sold to persons underage, but they would extend to the fact that no alcohol can be displayed or sold directly from the premises. Whilst alcohol would be stored on the premises in the back room, all alcohol would have to be ordered alongside food for delivery. All drivers would be trained to seek appropriate photo identification from those taking deliveries on the doorstep, and that photo ID would have to match with the recipient. it would not be acceptable, and drivers would be trained in the fact for a child, for instance, to open the front door and produce identification purporting to be that of a parent. It would have to be a responsible adult with ID showing that they were of an age of 25 or more that obtained the delivery on the doorstep. These requirements and provisions would be equally made clear on the websites, the two websites which Weymouth Kebab House use, this being Uber Eats and Just Eats.
So, Mr. Watt, sorry to come in there. So, I am an adult. If I had a 16, 17-year-old son who borrowed my debit card or credit card and had access to my driving license, if I go into Tesco's or the local pub and I was to buy you a drink, they can see that we are over the age. What proof have we got that we haven't got an underage person buying online using fraudulent details? And as we said, you've been using Uber or Deliveroo drivers who, by the nature of that, could be young and inexperienced. And then you get somebody challenging on the doorstep, and they effectively will be being taken, supplying the alcohol to them. What provisions and measures could be put in place to stop that?
Well, any fraudulent transactions would clearly be a separate issue. There is no way that yourselves as a committee can police such behaviour. However, as I say, photographic identification would be required on the doorstep, even if a 16 or 17-year-old child was to fraudulently make a purchase and even show that false driving licence or other documentation on the doorstep, then it would be clear to any driver that that photograph identification did not match with the recipient of the delivery.
Thank you, and I take that. But then, on the occasion you get there and the driver identifies that the person is under the age, that requires a very strong delivery driver to say, "I am not going to deliver that alcohol to you." And
well,
we
fair
know
to say
Uber drivers and Deliveroo's are generally younger people. They're very, what's the word I'm trying to say? They're very transient in their occupation, because if another job comes up, they're doing that as a fill-in job. So potentially to train all those drivers will be a real challenge for your applicant.
Well, it's fair to say that whilst operators such as Deliveroo do have a pool of applicant drivers who can, via their app, nominate to undertake any reasonable job within the catchment, in this particular instance, Mr. Danielle specifically uses Uber Eats and Just Eats that have a more regular pool of drivers. And indeed, the people that are employed directly by Mr. Danielle, who wait at the premises and only take on jobs from Mr. Danielle. Uber Eats and indeed Just Eat are purely ordering platforms online rather than delivery services such as Deliveroo, which, as I say, is not used. In terms of the issue of photographic identification, whilst yes, I take your point that if there was a wider delivery service in use, then training would not be an issue. But as I say, because there are specific drivers employed solely by Mr. Danielle on a part-time basis, then clearly the training would be given in-house. And obviously Mr. Danielle would fully appreciate the consequences if any of his drivers were not to play by the rules and seek specific identification.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Watts. That's my questions for the moment. I'm now going to move to the licensing team leader. Any questions from Mr. Watts, please?
No, thank you, Chair.
Any of the councillors got any further questions at this moment? Have we got any other people, any people wishing to speak? Elaine?
No, there's nobody here. Nobody else here.
Okay, thank you. So I think we've just about wrapped this up now. Is there any councillors, have you got any more questions at all for Mr. Watts?
No, Chair.
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Aileen, do you want to have anything else you would like to say at this moment?
No, thank you, Chair. I think you've heard everything.
Mr. Watts, is there anything else you would like to say at this time?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay. Do we need to sum up, or have we heard enough now, I think? Okay. Mr. Watts, do you want to sum up briefly for the panel here, please, for what your application is, and if anything further you'd like to add?
Thank you, Chair. There's not much further I need to add, other than just to stress that alcohol would solely be available on a delivery basis, would not be kept on the premises, would have to be delivered alongside pre-ordered food, that pre-ordered food would be delivered only via two platforms, one being Uber Eats and Just Eat, that the deliveries would be undertaken by drivers specifically working for Weymouth Kebab House, and that they would be trained to require photo identification on the doorstep, and it would be made clear both on Uber Eats and Just Eat that there would be such a requirement. Failure to provide proof that the recipient is over the age of 25 with the presence of appropriate photograph identification would mean that the delivery would not be made on the doorstep. This is largely because obviously Mr. Taniel is fully aware of the consequences of failing to adhere to any requirements of his variation licence. These consequences could actually impact the wider licence, and it would therefore be a step too far. As I say, there's plenty of opportunities for individuals to purchase alcohol beyond the hours for which the alcohol delivery would be required. I think it's also worth making a separate point in querying the characteristics, shall we say, of the delivery drivers. Largely people seeking deliveries of kebabs, irrespective of whether alcohol accompanies them, are largely outside the Melcombe Regis catchment. Given that those individuals, given that there is an additional cost to deliveries, it is more likely that those persons living within the Melcombe Regis catchment would benefit from a collection service of food and alcohol from alternative venues such as the Kebab House on King Street. So there is a wider delivery area. The drivers operating currently for Mr. Taniel all do deliveries by car rather than bicycle. Indeed, that goes to show that those individuals doing the deliveries are generally of a more senior age and more responsible, insofar that they can afford to obtain, maintain and insure a car rather than a bicycle, which would be more accessible to delivery drivers of a much more youthful age. Thank you, Chair. That's all I wish to add.
Thank you very much, Mr. Watt. Really appreciate it. Councillor Parker, you have a question.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's a question for Mr. Watts. Mr. Watts, are you able just to clarify what sort of alcohol is going to be on offer with the food deliveries?
Thank you, Councillor. Unfortunately, I'm not able to clarify exactly what that would be. However, I would have thought that it is more likely to be along the lines of, canned beverages and possibly bottles of wine rather than spirits. So certainly there is an issue in terms of, obviously, the applicants, because they're looking to source the alcohol and store it on the premises for dispatch. They haven't got the space requirements to store a huge array of alcohol and a huge choice, and certainly, there would be an unacceptable capital outlay for them should they be minded to, be storing sort of boxes and boxes of more expensive spirits, just on the off chance that a customer may request them. So one would assume certainly that it's more likely to be restricted to canned beer and cider and bottled wine. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, but thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you.
So certainly, though, within the scope of any variation, I'm sure the applicant would accept a condition precluding the sale of spirits if that was the committee's concern and desire. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Either of you, any further questions for Mr. Watts? Thank you very much. Aileen, would you like to sum up your case, please?
Chair, just to say that this issue is about the cumulative impact area and whether the premises will add any disorder or crime into that area and that area alone. It is only in that area that you've got the presumption of a refusal. So if you think that everything is going to be outside that area, then the presumption of refusal does not carry. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Aileen, councillors?
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I'll now ask the legal advisor if the relevant points have been addressed, please.
Yes, I think they have, Chairman. I've got nothing else to add.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else want to say anything else before we move on? Councillor Parker, anything else to add? Councillor Cockings?
No, Chair.
Mr. Watts?
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Aileen, anything further to add?
No, thank you, Chair.
In which case, the public part of the meeting will now conclude. The subcommittee will consider its decision in private with the Democratic Services Officer in remote attendance and the legal advisor who may be called upon to offer legal guidance. The decision of the licensing subcommittee shall be communicated to the parties and made available to the council's website as soon as practicable and within the prescribed limit of 5 working days. You will have 5 days the right of appeal and 21 days to submit that appeal should anybody not be happy with the decision. We now need a vote to go to a closed session, please.
I propose we go to a closed session.
I second that.
Thank you very much. Thank you much, everybody. We will now leave this meeting and go to a closed session to consider our decisions and the facts. Thank you, everybody, for your time this morning, and thank you for coming. And everybody have a nice day. Thank you very much.